All right, and good evening, everyone. Today we have a very special guest, and before that, I got to give a shout out to Anthony Wong for creating that cool intro, and we're gonna test all that good stuff out. So we have Matt from Athearn Trains. How you doing, Matt?
Doing pretty good this evening, Kenny. How are you?
All right, not too bad. And Athearn has a lot of good stuff for us.
Tons of good stuff.
Nice. That's what we like to hear. And with all the modelers out there, it's great that you guys are coming out with a brand new product, new molds. And James Wright, bring on the trains. That's right, James. Shout out. He's got a amazing YouTube channel, JLWII 2000, and a lot of good stuff. So everybody's saying hello. How we doing? Yes, big time production, Steve. We are doing our best. And Carter with the shout out. How you doing, Carter? Good seeing you. And even James likes the intro. Tom, awesome. All right. And thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Again, like I said, very special guest, Matt Gentry of Athearn Trains. And Matt, so what's the big announcement?
So the big announcement is the Dash 9s, the whole family. It's not just a Dash 940. It's not just a Dash 944. It's all of them. Dash 940Cs, Dash 944 CWs, Dash 944 CWLs. I mean, we've got the whole family here.
Very cool. And it even looks like, is that a CAD drawing?
So this is one of the actual 3D files that the engineers and I work with that they send to me for review. And so this is one of the CAD 3D files that I can spin and rotate, and wow. I can hide things so I can see what it looks like on the inside if we need to, to make sure that there's no fit issues, that type of stuff.
Wow.
It's really just some cool software that helps us out a lot.
Right. Now, this is going to be an Athearn Genesis model, so top of the line for you guys, right?
That is correct. And this is what we sort of coined our Genesis 2.0 model line. And what the Genesis 2.0 is some of our previous Genesis offerings for their design time and the technology at the time. Some of these Genesis items are getting on in age, 10 plus years old. Some of the tooling technology and detail variations and such were just not something that were able to be accounted for, that were really wanted to be put on the models. And now, with computer technology, CAD work, and 3D milling and all that type of stuff, we've been able to add all of these different features to make these such high-end models. Like we've been able to do the etched see-through steps in the corners. Wow. We've got all of the LED lighting, like this little walkway light is lit up.
Really?
So, I mean, just all the different features. And so we wanted to sort of set that apart from the original Genesis moniker. And that's where we sort of came to the conclusion, Genesis 2.0. We didn't want to name it something else. Because sort of the model railroader definition is, you hear it all the time, is Genesis quality. Is it Genesis quality? Right, so we wanted to maintain the Genesis line, but just have a different way to note the difference between Genesis and the new Genesis.
Right. Well, clearly Athearn Genesis rules.
Hey, we like that, Jarrell.
Very cool, but that's awesome. So when you guys go into a design for like a new announcement, and this Dash 9 is something huge that everybody seems to be talking about, so you started off with this CAD drawing and kind of sent it over to start the production?
So really, whenever you start at day one and we just sort of decide, okay, we're going to research and develop a Dash 9 series family locomotives. I mean, it really starts in the beginning with me or any of our research team for that matter. We take a whole list of the family of locomotives, who had them, who ordered them new from GE in this instance. So, you've got Norfolk Southern, Santa Fe, BNSF, Southern Pacific, Chicago Northwestern, all those railroads. And so we take a whole list and compile it. We compile build orders, road numbers, order numbers from GE if we can find it. So, I mean, we've got all those details in a little spreadsheet, and then we go through, and whenever we're finding something different, you know, like I've sort of mentioned before, the panels on the dynamic intake area here, they have, you see those little tabs at the bottom of those panels?
Yeah.
That is something that was on the early variation of -9. The later variation, and I can show you on the BNSF, is smooth. And so little details like that, we know.
I mean, that's crazy. You know, a little hatch or a pulley, like that's insane. That's really detailed, cool stuff.
Right. And I mean, our customers come to expect that now. And so, and for me, that's where it gets kind of fun is, oh, look at that little variance, or oh, look at that little detail, you know.
Right.
But all those little details are on the spreadsheet. And so that's how we break it down. And whenever we get all the photo research and all of the photo research data compiled, that's whenever we send it over to our engineering team, and then they start the CAD work. And after the initial CAD work is done is whenever I get these 3D drawings here, and we start the review process to make sure that those details are right, to make sure that the dynamic exhaust section is correct. Because I mentioned in some of our other videos, you know, this is a late style dynamic exhaust.
Right.
This is the early style.
Wow.
So, because like the early style here, you see, doesn't have those little tabs at the bottom that the late style does.
I mean, that's really specific. And you guys, I'm assuming you have to have hardcore train enthusiasts to really research all the little nuances on all these specific, and it's not even by like a -9. It's road name specific, you know?
Right. It's road name. It's even road number. I know that there is a certain build order of, I think it is the Norfolk Southern. It's the same build order, and you know, they were sort of all built around the same time period, but the Norfolk Southern, halfway through that build order, they stopped putting this little screen and vent on the brake wheel panel. So sometimes they change halfway through the build, and we have to notify what those build numbers are.
Wow. Everybody thinks manufacturing is easy, and they're like, oh, why don't you make this? It's going to be a very short, simple, easy, and this stuff is not easy. I mean, this is very intricate. You got to really go through with a fine comb and, you know, really do your homework.
Absolutely. And like I say, I mean, sometimes it can be exciting for me, but I can be a detailed junkie like that at times. And, you know, like you said, that I've mentioned this, and, you know, this is something that has been 3 years in the making, because like you said, I mean,
wow,
all those little details take a lot of time to figure out and make sure that we get it right. And then the CAD work. I mean, whenever I found some of these other variations on these things, I'm sure that my engineers wanted to reach through the monitor and slap me good a couple of times.
Oh my God.
But so yeah, I mean, whenever those customers come up and say, you know, hey, you can do this, it'll be quick and it'll be easy, and or you can do this and that won't take you long, surely. Well,
right.
And I can tell you from firsthand experience, it can take a while. Or if we make it not take a while, that very same customer that said it'll be quick and easy will find a mistake within about 30 seconds, and then we'll be in the wrong for it. So
really?
That's why we take our time, do it properly, and then we hopefully will present everyone with an outstanding model such as these.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. I mean, I'm glad you're a real modeler, and I'm sure a lot of your team members have to be to really know about the differences and keep on pushing to take these trains to the next level.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I'm not sure that a lot of people recognize about the team at Athearn is that in the US, there are only about 15 employees that are dedicated to Athearn working on this product. And out of those 15, more than half of them are actual modelers. We enjoy trains, we enjoy modeling, we enjoy operating, we enjoy building and painting and decaling and all this sort of stuff. You know, we're not just people that are here from 8 to 5 and then we go home. I mean, this is what a lot of us do. I mean, we eat, sleep, breathe this sort of stuff. I mean, we go rail fanning, we take photos, we spend whole weekends going places and watching the prototype. So, I mean, it's what we do. It's what we're passionate about.
And a lot of guys are being mistaken. They think it's Athearn Train Tuesday.
Train World Thursday. There you go.
I'm going to have to start a show on Wednesday now. Train World Wednesday.
There you go. There you go.
Those catchy lines. So that's great. And what road names and paint schemes are these -9s available in?
So this first announcement of -9 is going to be available in BNSF, and this is what we would call the Heritage 1 paint scheme. And actually, this photo that we have is a hybrid, and this will be listed as our Prime for Grime unit because it is a Heritage 1 base, and so it was originally delivered in Heritage 1, you know, like you see 977 and 1011 here. But somewhere along the way, the original green BNSF letters either wore off or were replaced for some unknown reason to the Heritage 2 BNSF lettering. So that unit we have actually released in our Prime for Grime series. And so the greens will be a little bit darker, a little bit more of a weathered and patched and faded type look. I think the orange is a little bit different as well on that. You know, it's a starting point for the guys that like to weather their items. And so that's where we sort of get that moniker primed for grime is, you know, it's primed for it. It's ready to go, you know, like an active and in-service type appearance.
Interesting.
But the other units are in the close to as delivered Heritage 1 paint scheme. But the era that these were researched for was a post 2010. So the antenna arrangements, and I think that there might be a couple of horn variations and that type of stuff. But the biggest difference would be like the decals and where those are placed and what they even say. I mean, like you sort of mentioned, we're all about this type of stuff. And so, I mean, if you notice on the top of the hood section on 977, there are these extra decals that are on the top of the hood that are not on 1011.
Interesting.
So, I mean, we go down to the label placement and even what the label says. We have some very good friends that are employed by the Class 1 railroads and have been more than willing to supply us with these information. So if you zoom in on, I think the PDF can go in high enough, maybe. Yep, I guess not today. But you would be able to legibly read what those labels say, and they are accurate to what the labels say on the prototype. So, and we are very thankful for those constituents at the railroads who have helped us with this. Their help does not go unnoticed, that's for sure.
Right. That's a beautiful looking engine. Really nice.
So, but these are the early BNSF units. So these have the 3 windows on the side of the cab versus the later version, which has 4-piece windows on the side of the cab. Then, of course, these have, since they are post 2010, there are some modifications that have been done to the long hood on these. The area underneath the exhaust stack has been cut out and then removed and then bolted on, and that's what the 4 little bolts under the side of the exhaust on the side of the hood represents. Because as delivered, that was just a clean panel. So we have replicated that rebuild or modification rather. So like you said, just a bunch of little nuances within each variation.
Right.
Then we also have Burlington Northern Santa Fe in the Heritage 2 paint scheme, which is by far the most common paint scheme for BNSF on the -9 44CW series locomotive. These are, or at least were, their highest quantity locomotive during the, I would say, mid to late 90s, early 2000s, before the ES 44 series locomotive started being delivered, which the ES series is basically just an updated -9 AC 4400, you know, due to tier emissions and that type of stuff. But the Heritage 2 scheme that you see here, these are all post 2010. So these have been in service, and this 5000 series was one of the last orders that BNSF placed for the -9 series before the ES series GEVO.
Right.
So some of the later features on these is, again, different decal placement. But what I am excited about on these is the different air conditioners. As you can see that the air conditioner on 5009 has different detail variations than the AC on 5088.
Wow.
So these have different air conditioners, and they are interchangeable for production. And they do, I'm sure that they will be able to come off. I'm still working with my factory as to how the AC units will be attached. And so we can continue to update the customers in that regard, so that if they want to get an air conditioner a little bit later on down the road, we might be able to offer something like that.
I mean, that's really going crazy. A AC unit?
Yep.
Oh
Yep.
my God. Wow. I guess trains have gone to a whole new level of detailing.
And you're right. And that's one of the things is, like I say, with the tooling variations and the tooling technology these days, is why not? Let's go ahead and give it a shot, you know?
And
So,
George from Soundtrack, Tsunami 2 has sound for AC.
awesome. We'll have to talk to George and see that we can get that activated, so we can do a little bit of a demo video of it.
I hope it's not George's house's AC.
You know, whenever we were communicating with Soundtracks for the decoders and those ICC cabooses,
Right.
I jokingly told them, I said, hey, we need to get someone snoring in there. Go get George.
You never know.
So there's our BNSF Heritage 2 variations that are available on this -9. And again, the infamous gull wing cab is on these.
Right.
And and like I mentioned, you see the side of the cab has the 4-piece windows on it now. So next we have Chicago Northwestern, and I was actually really excited to do these because I think I'm a closet Chicago Northwestern fan, and I don't know why.
Okay.
So some of the detail variations on these are done in the Genesis level for the first time in plastic. So these are very first time prototypically accurate to the road and road number. These are as delivered. So the labels placed are in the as delivered configuration, which, you know, they would all three be the same from the factory. And one of the differences between these is Chicago Northwestern had about 4 or 5 orders of these, and they were only about 30 units apiece. But somewhere between the second and third, or the third and the fourth order, they changed the construction of the truck side frames. So if you can see it, there is a stiffener bulge that is on the side of the truck, and that is where the white lettering is on these first 2 units. It says the 40-inch oh geez, I can't even read it. 40-inch unipoint wheels on it. There's a reinforcement stiffener right there on the side of the truck. So 8613 and 8646 have that same truck, but later in the 8700 series, They didn't.
How did they even get the detail or decals on that or painted? That's so small. That's crazy.
So the process that they use is pad printing, and the pad is made out of like a neoprene rubber. Mm-hmm. And so whenever they lower it down on there, that rubber pad flexes over it, and then the image will transfer to the part.
I mean, you got to be lined up exactly 100%. That's crazy.
Right. But then the other neat thing about these is that Chicago Northwestern ordered these without air conditioner units in them from the start. And so the placeholder is here, but you see that there are no vents for the AC hardware. Hmm. So these are, like I mentioned, depicted as delivered for the Chicago Northwestern. And the Chicago Northwestern was the very first railroad to take delivery of the -9 44 CW locomotives.
Right.
So these differences, low headlight and then the low mounted number boards on these as well.
Very cool.
Next up, we have Union Pacific. And these were some early units for the -9 delivery as well. But what we have done is we have taken and depicted these as a post-2006, 2012 era. So these have been repainted, and they have the yellow frame stripe on these. And if you notice, all four have a different paint scheme on them. The lightning stripe is in a different position on 9702 than it is 9710, than it is 9730. And then each one has the Union Pacific logo in a different place. So these are correct to the road number. And one of the other main differences on these is that there is a grab on the front of the nose that's underneath the low number board housing that the other roads don't. So again, a Union Pacific specific detail feature on these.
Union Pacific specific.
Yeah, I've had to concentrate on that one a couple of times. So just a bunch of very much road specific details that each of these units contain. Next up, we have, for the very first time in plastic, is the -9 44 CWL locomotives, which were only delivered to BC Rail and then Canadian National. So previously, you either had to get these in brass or you had to get resin cab shells and do a modification to an existing -9 body, either from Kato or Athearn or what have you.
Right.
But now these are going to be available in plastic, and I do have a sample model, so they do exist. And the marker lights in the nose do light up, and the rock lights on the front pilot do light up. So these have full feature lighting from the Tsunami 2 sound decoder. And the sound comes through in a dual cube speaker assembly, which is what we have been doing with almost all of our new sound equipped models where we have been able to. So like the SD80 Mac and the SD90 Mac, the new run of GP38-2s, the previous run of SD40-2s, all have that new dual cube speaker assembly in them to get that really good quality sound that the Tsunami 2 decoders can put out. That was one of the things that we were really working closely with Soundtracks on to really show off their product as well. So again, these BC Rail units are depicted as delivered. And the reason that we did that was we really wanted to make sure that we represented the BC Rail modelers, because later in life, they received a yellow reflective frame stripe. And and talking to some of our customers that are BC modelers or are very good friends with BC modelers, it was noted that if we put that yellow frame stripe on there, we would lose all the BC modeler crowd who are diehard BC modelers in about the 1995 timeframe. And the other thought to that is that the modelers that want to add that yellow frame stripe, it is much easier to add it than it is to take it away for the guys that want to mass deliver.
I will say this paint scheme is really nice. And you don't really get to see a lot of BC rail, so it's nice to see this paint scheme.
Right, right, and that's been one of the neat things living here in Champaign, Illinois, is we're on the Canadian National, which is the former IC from Chicago down to New Orleans. And whenever Canadian National took over BC Rail, they got these locomotives. And so I have caught some of these Dash 944 CWLs in the BC Rail paint scheme going down the Champaign sub. And whenever you're out rail fanning and you see that red, white, and blue coming through, you know what it is.
Yeah.
So, but then the other, I know what the other thing is that I need to show everybody is the BC Rail units actually have an emergency conductor's cab door on the back side of the cab, and we have replicated that. And this is only specific to the 4 BC Rail locomotives. The Canadian National units do not have this door. So I know that we've had a lot of people asking about that. There it is.
Now, a lot of people think that these changes are not a big deal, but for the process in China and, any kind of manufacturing process, it adds up, and it's extra money, dollars, and it's not easy to make these changes. So kudos to you guys to really nitpicking and trying to find exactly a replicate of the exact unit. So good for you guys.
Thank you. And that's one of the things that we would like to point out to everybody is, like you mentioned, I mean, there's a lot of time and investment, and then a lot of different variations that we have to take into consideration here. And, as a reminder, these are still all handmade. There is virtually no automated process in putting a model train together.
Wow.
And I know that there have been some mention of the price of model railroading these days, but when you consider what you get and it's all done by hand, it's not that bad.
Yeah. And the amount of labor and intense quality, I mean, the quality now by far surpasses what was made years and years ago. I mean, years ago it was just one shell and you put it on a motor and that's it. These engines nowadays are just so intricate and detailed.
Right. And, like I sort of mentioned, we take the body off and we see what's under the hood. I mean, look at all the parts that are underneath these things, Yeah. And there's a lot going on.
Yeah, it came a long way from the days of Tyco selling at Toys R Us and all that stuff. So
Right. It's come a long way from the days when Athearn was making models, that's for sure. So anyway, so those are the BC Rail units that we've got going on. And I know that there have been people asking if we will rerun these again, because there were only 4 for the BC Rail. We will be rerunning them. I do not know when. It probably won't be anytime soon. But also, when we do rerun them, we will be doing a later depiction. So it'll have the yellow frame stripe and some of the other decal placements and such like that. So if you want an as-delivered BC Rail, make sure you get your pre-orders in now with your favorite hobby retailer, such as Train World and Trainland.
Yep. And Matt, 2 questions. One, everybody's asking for more paint schemes, so you're going to have to keep on going with the Dash 9. So Rock Island, I saw Santa Fe, so everybody wants more and more and more. Mm-hmm. And 2, Robert had a good question about ditch lights. Some of the UP Dash 9s and from SP and repainted, will there be flashing ditch lights, do you know?
So on the Southern Pacific Heritage Dash 9s that are in UP paint or UP patch, what have you, they will flash per the prototype.
Okay.
But these, this number series, the 9700 number series for Union Pacific, were the original delivery Dash 9s to Union Pacific. So these are not SP Heritage. These are not Chicago Northwestern Heritage. So the ditch lights on these do not flash from the factory. But with a few minor CV changes on the Soundtrack Tsunami 2 decoder, you can make them flash really easy.
Yep. So you're going really prototypical what the engine should be.
Right. Exactly. And that's like these BC rail, especially with the rock lights. We've watched numerous YouTube videos that have been posted, and when they're at a grade crossing, they don't flash. So on the prototype, they don't flash. The Norfolk Southern units will flash because the Norfolk Southern practices alternating ditch lights.
And I will say, a lot of manufacturers glaze over and skip over that fine attention to detail. And, there's a reason why Athearn Genesis has been, top of the line for all these years. And it's this attention to detail that you guys continue to participate with your Genesis 2.0 line now.
Right, right. And, like you sort of mentioned with the alternating ditch lights, there are here, like the Union Pacific, for instance, you notice there are two different horn styles on 9702 and 9710.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The horn sound profile on the decoder is different on each one of those units.
Interesting.
So it's the default horn we selected is per the either 3-chime or 5-chime horn.
Wow.
So, and of course, because our Tsunami 2 decoders are a full-fledged Tsunami 2, all of the horns are made available on the decoder. If you would like to choose a different horn sound profile, you can easily change a CV and get it.
Right.
So, but moving on, so we have the Canadian National Dash 944 CWLs, and these are going to be depicted as delivered as well. And we have 3 road numbers available for these, and these are with the CN North America logo map on the side. Again, operating marker lights, operating ditch lights, of course, operating front and rear walkway light on the nose and the rear of the hood. And then these still come with the popular ground effect lights above the front truck. That was something that we took a stab at with the SDP40F a couple of years ago, and it was very well received. So we've been implementing those ground effect lights on future Genesis 2.0 models as well.
Yeah.
So, but Canadian National, like I mentioned, these are as delivered. So pretty much the labels are all the same. They haven't been scratched up, torn up, repatched, rebuilt, anything like that. And as I mentioned, these CN units do not have that emergency exit door on the conductor side rear of the cab.
Crazy.
And then, one of the other neat differences about these CWLs is, if you notice, there's only one rear headlight lens as compared to 2 on all of the other US prototype models. And this is prototypically accurate per the Canadian practice. So that is correct as well on these things. And then last but not least, we have the Norfolk Southern Dash 940C, better known as the Top Hat. And the reason they got that Top Hat moniker was the air conditioner that's on top of the cab made them look rather fancy. So they got the Top Hat moniker due to that. And these are in the Thoroughbred paint scheme. So it these are depicted as repainted with the Thoroughbred logo on it. So the horse emblem is in the logo on the side of the hood instead of just straight lines across it.
Do you think these will be the best sellers? Usually NS with that logo is exceptional. I mean, you have a lot of different great choices, but I don't know. It's hard to say.
So in this product launch, I think that the NS Thoroughbred paint scheme will do well because, I mean, unfortunately, we were not the very first manufacturer to have one of these in plastic, but we are the first manufacturer to deliver it in this paint scheme. But the others that I think will do well will definitely be the Canadian spec units for BC Rail and Canadian National. Yeah. But I also think that the Union Pacific units will do well because we have found that the ultra-modern Union Pacific paint scheme with the yellow frame stripe and updated paint schemes and all that stuff do very, very well. So we're optimistic about specifically the Canadian units, and then personally, I'm optimistic about the Union Pacific units as well.
Okay.
The Chicago Northwestern units, I think, will do well because 2 of the road numbers were the quote unquote.
You're buying one or two.
I might be. But 2 of the road numbers for the Northwestern units were what everyone monikered as the twins. They were the 2 that were up at the Illinois Railway Museum for the longest time and stayed in Chicago Northwestern paint unpatched for the longest time as well.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic about those. And then, of course, BNSF, because the BNSF had over 1,600 -9s. So I think BNSF will do well also.
Yeah, and guys out there, please feel free to chime in. I want to hear what your favorite road name out of the -9s are. Let me know. This way I know what to order for you guys. Makes it easier.
Yes. Make sure you let Kenny know, because those pre-orders go a long way to help us know what to order, what to build, and what kind of little bit over the pre-order numbers for us to order. Because it's still a lot of people, I don't think, understand this, but we pretty much only build these to order, and then we do a small percentage over, and that's about it. So pre-orders are very important.
Yeah, it's funny, and a lot of times what I've been finding recently is the lesser known road names, where it's not either NS or UP, where they won't pre-order it, but as soon as it comes out, because there's less quantity, people go crazy scrambling to find it. It's quite honest. I say trains is kind of like the stock market. It's like you buy low, and the quantity is low, so the price is going high, and then the quantity is just all scrambled. It's crazy.
Right.
People have that adrenaline.
Right. And that's one of the things that I think we're going to see on the SD60Ms that we announced back in March. I think whenever those deliver, I think that those are just going to come and go immediately out the door whenever people see them. It was an unfortunate circumstance when we did announce those, because we announced them in the month of March, and then everybody got sent home. So I think model trains were on everybody's back burner, which is unfortunate. But everybody did get home and did get to modeling. But some of the pre-orders did suffer on that one. So I think that if you have some extra inventory of the SD60Ms, you'll be sitting pretty good, Kenny.
Yep, very good.
So so that's it for the -9 announcement.
Very cool.
I'm not sure if I mentioned, but these are for 2013 to 2018 on these Norfolk Southern units, because in 2018 is when they started their AC44 C6M rebuild program. And these were among the first units that were used as a core unit for that program. So that's why these sort of stop around 2018.
And Chris is, I guess, putting in a recommendation with special paint job NS engines, maybe the next run.
Right. So there are definite future plans for some of those NS special paint schemes. Whenever we have the correct body tooling to do them, you can bet that we will. So like I was sort of talking about earlier, it's very dependent that we have the correct prototype information for these, so that we have a correct and accurate model.
Right. Very cool. Good stuff.
So
now, so the -9, huge announcement. We're actually just getting them up on our website to take pre-orders now. It's in the Athearn Genesis section, -9. So click on it, get your orders in. It's a crazy time, and we've been so busy. So we're a little behind on things, but we're doing our best. But everybody is playing with their trains, which is a great thing during the summertime. So
right. And that leaves us optimistic for the winter time too. So
thank you, David. Appreciate that. And you also have a great engine that you announced a couple of months ago that I really wanted to go over, because I think it was kind of during that Corona phase where things kind of got lost in the shuffle. So Can we talk about the next engine?
Sure. And that would be the P42, the Amtrak AMD 103.
Very nice.
So this is available for the first time in Genesis, and we have gone through and we have really done a lot of detail updates on this. I do want to point out first, you know how we were talking earlier about the Genesis versus Genesis 2.0
Right.
differentiation. This is upgraded to Genesis, not Genesis 2.0. Some of those extra features I was mentioning on the Genesis 2.0, like the full etched see-through grills, the full light package like the ground lights and the number boards, and some of the different detail features like that were not incorporated onto this model. So this is just an original Genesis product. So
Gotcha.
we are still sort of supporting both lines. But this has been updated to have full LED lighting on the front with alternating flashing ditch lights, and the red marker lights are operational now. They have red light pipes and a red LED, so it's a nice, brilliant red color. And from the factory with the Tsunami 2 decoder, they are defaulted to operate in reverse direction of travel with the F24 button on your DCC controller. But of course, if you want to change that or control them independently, a couple of CV changes, then you're good to go. So
very cool. And
but
yes, this is the first time for the P42 in Genesis.
Correct. Yeah.
And there, I mean, the quality difference on this is going to be substantially better to any P42 out there on the market.
Right. And one of the major things that makes this Genesis now is all of the pilot detail that we've added to this guy. Because, you know, previously it was very barren. It basically only had the plow and the coupler. And so now we've got the cut lever has been added, of course, all of the train lines, and then the dual air train lines, and then the 480 volt HEP connectors have been added to the front pilot as well. So these are the connectors that send the electrical current from the generator back to the train and the passenger cars to provide power for the cars. So all of the pilot detail is there. This is a brand new plow that has the grab irons molded on. And so that is on the front and the rear of the locomotive. So full pilot details front and rear. And then also we've added all of the underbody detail and piping that we have sort of become known for as well. So a lot of new updated detail features on these guys, and the air dryer guard is interchangeable because there are two variations of it. There's an early one which is curved, and then there's this late one which is which is angular. So we can depict early and late on the P42 for that little air screen guard. It's just little attention to detail items like that that just sort of set these guys apart.
And you got to talk about the soundtrack's decoder.
Yeah. So, of course, we've got the Tsunami 2 decoder.
Matt, I don't know.
Yeah. I'll just let George do it for me, huh?
We should actually just invite George on the call.
Yeah. But like George sort of mentioned, you know, the Tsunami 2 decoder has the HEP mode on it. And so I think it's defaulted to F16 on our decoder. So you hit the F16 and you hear the alarm bell kick in, and then you hear that prime mover ramp up. And on the GEs, it only goes to notch 6. And then if you go faster than the locomotive prime mover is needed at notch 6, it'll then go up to 7 and 8 like it prototypically would.
And I want to apologize to George because, quite honestly, I didn't even think about bringing him on tonight, but I think it would have been great to have George from Soundtracks come on and be part of this, because you guys have a great partnership, and their decoders are really great. So maybe next time we could have him come on, because I think if we invite him on tonight, he may be at home drinking a beer and enjoying tonight. Right.
He might be. But along those lines with the Tsunami 2 is on the inside of this guy. We have, oh, where'd my chassis go? Anyway, we have the dual, I lost it. Darn it.
It's amazing, these pictures, and how someone could actually create this on a website or however you make it. It's pretty intense.
Right. But no, on the P42, we have dual 28 millimeter round speakers in these guys to really help set off that 7 FDL 16 prime mover from the Soundtrack Tsunami 2 decoder. So really high quality sound coming out of these guys. And then also, this is the first time that these have a full cab interior as well.
Very cool.
So, but then the other major thing is this new chassis. Is look how much of that new chassis is the metal underframe for greater pulling power. That was one of the things that we really wanted to work on this guy, was the tractive effort for it, because we've heard that a lot of people have said that the RTR iteration of the P42 was light-footed, didn't pull very well, needed to have weight added. So we took care of that with this upgrade. I personally have ran the operating sample that we have gotten around a 1.8% grade Helix, and it has pulled 7 of the Superliner cars from Walthers, and it has done it unassisted, and the cars have not been modified or anything like that, and those are known for being pretty difficult to pull up a grade. So for one locomotive to pull 7 of those up a 1.8% Helix, I think is pretty impressive. So
very cool. And a good question, a little off topic, but from BNSF Railfan. Do you know when the next shipment of SD70 Max from Athearn are coming in? I'm not sure if you know offhand, Matt.
I can look very quickly, but what I will say is that for a lot of the locomotive deliveries, the best place to check on their delivery schedule is actually on the Athearn website. And whenever you select your model of choice, it'll say down at the bottom of the
delivery date.
The little preview window is the estimated time of arrival. And so the 70 Max are still scheduled for early July of 21.
Okay.
So
a little bit of time.
Yep, you got some time yet. So that is the new P42 as well. Like you said, this one was sort of in the shuffle, let's say, of some of the work from home stuff and everything like that. But we got it announced. We're pretty happy with the samples. I mean, I've got some of the samples right here in front of me that have all that new awesome underbody detail on them and the new pilot details and such. So
let's zoom in on that if you can.
Sure.
Wow. Now someone had a good question about the added parts. Are they durable or delicate?
I mean, they are molded in our standard ABS plastic, and of course, you don't want to just go heavy-handed and grab the locomotive, but you know, always use caution when grabbing the models, because I mean, finely molded detail parts like that can only be so strong.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's any manufacturer. It's not just Athearn. Yeah. So I will say that we do our best to try to make them as durable as possible, but we also try to maintain the fidelity of the prototype. So it's a balancing act that we try to take into consideration. So the best bet is to just handle your models carefully, and hopefully you won't have an issue. Very
cool. Yeah, it makes sense. And both engines, the P42 and the -9, are going to be home runs. The orders, I already see the orders coming in. It's crazy because as soon as you add it online, people like automatically know. It's amazing to see. It's crazy. So that was very cool to see the other day with the Dash 9. And so we'll keep on taking the orders. Get your orders in because it's going to be very hot, extremely limited, always on the first run. Things tend to sell out, so be careful with that. And anything else you want to talk about or go over, Matt?
Real quick about the Dash 9s. I know that there have been a couple of questions, but like you mentioned, you know, brand new product, brand new tooling. This is our second model to utilize these separately applied spinning roller bearing caps. So the attention to detail on these guys, whenever everyone sees these, I think are going to sell out quick. So the spinning roller bearing caps on these guys just help set it off. And we have tried to do our best to make sure that these are durable and do not cause issue and fall off of your model. We have made sure that the friction surface of the bearing has a good amount to grab onto, so it should not cause any problems.
Very cool.
So, but just another detail that we've gone the distance on these guys. And then I saw a question earlier. The brake chain is actual metal link chain that is on the rear truck on these guys. So again,
wow.
just super attention to detail on these guys to make them as real as possible for the prototype and any modeler for that matter. So,
I mean, you guys are really stepping it up each time you make a model. It's amazing.
It's that old adage, you just keep pushing yourself to do better and better every day.
There you go. Well, Matt, I had a great learning session from you, and it's amazing that you know all this information and specific. I mean, I could never be a manufacturer. I mean, the knowledge you have to know about each train and the research that is involved, it's unbelievable. You guys do such an unbelievable job, and it shows, and that is why Athearn has been the top name of trains for so many years. So kudos to you guys, Matt.
Thank you, Ken. We appreciate it, and we love what we do.
Yeah, very good. And James Wright actually had a funny comment. You guys should put spinners on the rolling bearing. That's actually pretty funny. A hooped up train.
There you go. Yeah. Hear the sub thumping in the back.
Yeah, there you go. Very cool. Well, all your Dash 9s and P42s, we're taking pre-orders now. Thank Matt so much for coming out tonight and taking his time. We really appreciate you setting aside some time to talk about all these great products with our customers. Thank you guys all. Thank you for joining us, and have a great night. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Have a great night.
Good night.